Good afternoon and welcome to the latest results show from the Concours Virtual. Today we have the Stirling Moss class. The Concours is presented by Haggerty and this class is sponsored by EFG Private Bank. My name is Jeff Love, I'm the co-chair of the Concours, and with me is David Lillywhite, also co-chair, and joining us today is John Mayston-Taylor. John was the chairman of Links and is now a resident of the Bahamas and a very sought after judge in many concours around the world. Thanks for joining us, John.
Thank you, Jeff. David.
So Stirling Moss cars raced by Stirling Moss in period, and I have to say we had an amazing selection of cars for the judges, and I'm sure it was a difficult choice for the judges to come to, and we'll talk about those a little in a minute. But David, give us the view from the people's vote first, please.
Okay, lots of votes coming. I always say this, but it was a really good response. And no, I'm not allowed to vote, but if I had voted, I would say this would have been my order, actually. I love this. So in third place, we've got the 1957 MG EX181 speed record car. Now, this is the car that Moss drove at Bonneville Salt Flat, and he achieved 245.6 miles an hour, which if you think that's 1957, that's some going. Broke a record in the class, and then it was handed over a little bit later because Moss wasn't available to Phil Hill for another class once they'd enlarged the engine. He then took it to 254.9 miles an hour, which again, astonishing. This car is owned by the British Motor Museum, so it's on show there. So congratulations to the museum. I think that's a great thing because all museums have had a hard time lately. So very pleased for that. Second place, we've got the 1960 Ferrari 250 GT short wheelbase. Phenomenal car. It's in the Rob Walker livery, so dark blue with the white stripe. Really iconic car for Moss, and he did incredibly well with it. And it's owned by none other than Ross Brawn, obviously of Formula One fame. So congratulations, Ross. Thank you for putting it in. Brilliant. Really chuffed for this. First place, probably won't be surprised by this. It's the 1955 Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR, better known as 722, which was its start number in the 1955 Mille Miglia, which is still the most phenomenal victory ever in motor racing, really. Moss and Dennis Jenkinson. This car is owned by the Mercedes-Benz Museum, so congratulations to all there. I think that's a great result. I'll hand back to Jeff.
Great. Well, thank you very much for those, David. As you say, very popular choices and some great cars in there. So, John, moving to the judges' vote, and obviously the judges' vote will provide the car which goes through to the best in show contenders, which we'll be announcing on the 9th of August. Tell me how you set about with the judges to judge this particular class.
Well, I have to say, Jeff, that the Stirling Moss group of cars was some of the best cars that we've seen in the Concours, really. It was an honour and a pleasure to be involved with them. Fellow judges, we had a lovely jovial discussion and some nice personal memories about Stirling himself, and having passed away recently. The cars that obviously stood out are ones that you've talked to about earlier, David. But other cars which I think are worth noting is of course the Van Wall. Driving the Van Wall, Stirling lost the world championship by just 1 point to Mike Hawthorne. So things could have been very different if he'd perhaps chosen to go Italian. Stirling was very much a British sports racing car lover, and that's why he teamed up with Rob Walker. Probably not the most successful team in terms of reliability, but very much a car worth discussing, and it was definitely a contender. The two Jaguar E-Types within the class were interesting. The early coupe. The fact that he visited the first car wash in the UK with it was perhaps not what he was best known for in terms of on-track successes, but nevertheless an interesting footnote. And the Jaguar C-Type is probably more of the model that Stirling would be associated with within the Jaguar marque. Many successes with that, and I think the first success that he had at Reims for a disc brake racing car, sports car at the time. So the third place within our class is the Lotus 18, which was an interesting car because Moss drove it to success and win at Monaco, and it actually shows a shot. He had the side panels taken off to allow him to have effectively air conditioning during the race, because it was a long race and very hot, and he was very successful beating the shark-nosed Ferraris, which were much more competitive than the little Lotus by the time he raced it. The second place car was the Ferrari 250 short wheelbase, a fabulous car. He won the Tourist Trophy at Goodwood in 1960 with it, and he also won the Nassau Tourist Trophy with it the same year. So living in the Bahamas, there's a nice connection with that car. I doubt whether we'll see it again. I doubt whether they have any more racing in Nassau. We're expecting a hurricane this weekend, so it's probably not the best weather conditions to hold a motor race. But a fantastic car, and lovely to see it entered. The winner for us, and it was really unanimous vote, is the 1955 Mercedes 300 SLR. To think that he raced during a time that was spectacularly dangerous. It was fairly early on within his relatively short racing career, but to race for 1,000 miles non-stop and averaging just under 100 miles an hour for all that time, reading from pace notes that Dennis Jenkinson supplied, but other drivers that had much more experience of the circuits and the roads that he had. So just an amazing achievement. And I'm so pleased that he lived to tell the tale. He had some serious accidents, and we know the Goodwood accident in 1962, but he also suffered a fairly major accident during 1960 at the Belgian Grand Prix. So he was a character and a true gentleman, and I think his legacy will be he was not just a sports car driver, but a great sport himself, and it was very enjoyable to judge them and say unanimous vote by our judges.
Great. Well, thank you very much, John, for the deliberations of the jury there. And I think what for me was really interesting to see, you had such a wide spread of cars for
Yes.
a single driver, from sports cars to Formula One to Bonneville. Very few people nowadays would be able to get into that many cars and do such amazing feats with all of them. He really was a true racer in the best tradition. So delighted that we were able to honour Sir Stirling in our small way in the Concours, and it's fabulous that so many great cars came out to honour him in such a way. So just to recap then, in third place in the judges' vote was the Lotus 1892. In second place was the Ferrari 250 GT short wheelbase, and in first place the 1955 Mercedes 722 owned by Mercedes, and that will be the car that will be competing in the best of show, which we will be announcing on the 9th of August. So thank you, David. Thank you, John. Thank you all for tuning in. Please continue to look at the website. We've got plenty more classes still coming up, and then we build to the best of show at the end of next week on the 9th of August. And please remember, this is for UNICEF, so if you get the chance, please visit our Just Giving page and donate, no matter how much, how little, every little helps in their fight with coronavirus at the moment. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.